Hey, brewery or small business owner. At the Beer Accountant, they understand the unique financial challenges of the craft brewing industry. Are you tired of navigating complex brewery accounting and taxes on your own? Staying up late working on financials and getting your finances in order after a whole workday? They're a CPA dedicated to helping breweries like yours thrive, with services ranging from qualified bookkeeping, business tax prep, to strategic financial planning. Stop wasting time on spreadsheets and focus on what you do best. Making great beer and running a small business, servicing over 50 breweries in 4 states. So if you own a brewery or small business, stop overpaying for reactive support and start being proactive with the Beer Accountant. Don't brew that IPA without this CPA. Visit beeraccountant.com to learn how their specialized expertise can help your brewery grow, profit, and succeed.
Are you a brewer looking to open, grow, or plan your next move? I'm Ted Zeller, liquor law attorney at Norris McLaughlin. I've spent my career working with breweries, helping them navigate the regulations that come with this industry at the municipal, county, state, and federal levels. From first permits to expansion into new markets, my team serves as legal counsel on licensing, compliance, and distribution. If you're ready to plan your next move or need legal guidance, I am here to help. Feel free to call me at 484-765-2220 or email me at tzeller@norris-law.com.
I was telling Richie and Evan earlier, Disney had reached out to us, and honestly, when they first emailed me, I thought it was spam. I ignored the email. I was like, Director of Marketing, this is a joke, blah, 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 ignore. But like a week later, another employee, another marketing guy reached out and was like, no, like we really want to work with you. Your beer and your branding is really perfect for this new project we're working on. And so I reached back out. I was like panicking. Oh shit, this is real. We got to do this. And they told us the project, it was Daredevil. At that point, this was winter. So this was about a year and a bit. And we got tapped to do beer for that. So that went off really, really well. Everybody loved it. We had screening nights. We had like figure drawing pop-ups at the brewery. We did cosplay contests for the finale. People got really into it. There's a big Daredevil community in New York.
Welcome back to BrewedAt Podcast. I'm your host, Richie Tevlin, joined as always by Evan Blum.
Hello.
So episode 9 or 10 for KCBC episodes. We're joined by the KCBC crew, Zack Kinney, Bobby Rolandi.
Correct.
Let's go. All right, I got all 3 names. I don't get any. So you brought some great beers in for us. So the Daredevil IPA collab, Devil You Know. And what is this one? The Tiny Tacos Pilsner? Which one should we try first? Probably the Pilsner?
Let's do the Tiny Taco. Yeah. Nice and light, not blast you up.
So what is this, the Tiny Taco?
Yeah, it's a collab. It's a West Coast Pilsner. We did a collab with for CAC. It's pouring at the convention right now at the Prairie tent and the Hopstone tent, and I believe the Omega tent as well. Yeah. But yeah, it's a collab with those 3 companies.
Not bad when you get all of your raw materials collab together.
It's pretty sweet when it works out. And yeah, they gave us a lot of freedom. They were kind of, Omega's got this diacetyl-free GMO German lager strain, a few others. This was 3470, the German lager strain. So, we got a pretty good protocol for managing VDK and diacetyl, but they were offering an opportunity to kind of really dig into this yeast. We hadn't used their that strain from them before, so it was fun.
And then what were the hops in it?
It is. It's all hop center hops, obviously. So on the hot side, it's the West Coast Pilsner is basically like a lager, hoppy lager, but
it's a made up style. Nobody knows what it is.
Yeah, I've used it before.
Essentially, it's supposed to be a German Pilsner on the hot side, and then dry hop it with American hops.
Yeah,
that's how we treated it.
So Solero, Lemon Drop, and Delta.
Yeah,
and then
U.S. Noble hops.
U.S. Noble, yeah, cool. It's like a Hallertau Noble.
Yeah,
grown in the U.S. I mean, so the Noble stuff on the hot side, and then I think the Lemon Drop and the Solero were the featured dry hops.
Dry hop. Yeah, we did a little bit of Lemon Drop in the Whirlpool, but then everything else on the hot side was all Delta and U.S. Noble.
Nice, and I love the artwork. Your artwork is obviously always the best.
It's fun. Yeah. Earl Holloway, our label artist. Shout out to Earl. He's Funny Bone stuff on Instagram. You should check him out. Incredibly talented. This was a brand new piece of art. I was like, let's make it like a little taco guy, but he's like cute, but also kind of scary and like kind of maybe, it's like Betty Boop meets Clockwork Orange with the taco, so.
That is literally it. Yeah.
Ta-da.
So I think all of our listeners know what KCBC is, but if you don't know,
Sure.
one of the best breweries in Brooklyn, or not Brooklyn, Queens, right?
Brooklyn, yeah.
Brooklyn.
No, Brooklyn. Yeah, Kings County. Yeah.
Kings County.
KCBC, Kings County Brewers Collective. And we're coming up on 10 years operating in Bushwick, which is a neighborhood in North Brooklyn. We're right off the subway. If you're ever in Brooklyn, please come by. Taproom's open 7 days a week. We've got a pretty tight team. We've got a 15-barrel brew house, mostly 30-barrel fermenters, a couple of smaller tanks as well. We do a lot of variety. We've got 6 year-round core beers, but also fun specialty stuff and a great taproom space for hangs and dogs welcome, and we have open streets in the summertime, so the streets are closed off. On the weekends, it's a great spot.
So I actually have some history of KCBC. I have applied to KCBC and not gotten a job from KCBC.
What does he have to talk to about?
This was literally
Awkward.
It was like 8 years ago. I was applying when I was at Flying Dog.
Yeah.
Like literally 8 years ago.
I think I'd seen your name maybe just on the podcast world
I don't
at
even
some
have
point.
access. I don't even have access to the email that I sent to you. That's
I probably still have it somewhere. I believe I wrote back. I don't know that
You did write back. I can't remember I met you guys, but it just didn't work out for whatever reason. But
you
I
apply
also what?
What'd you apply for?
I don't even remember. It was just I wanted to just get up to
Yeah, man.
and it all worked out. I'm really unhappy, but yeah. So I reached out to you for that. And then when I was getting ready to open up my brewery, Space Cadet, I reached out to you guys again because I was like, you guys are the illustrators.
Yeah.
How do you manage having an illustrator, not a graphic designer? Like, as far as like the contracts go, and like how the pricing and like what I've never done this before. So just walk me through how this works.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
thank you, I guess.
Absolutely, man. Yeah, it's a part of the process that I really enjoy. I used to work in advertising before beer, before I went to brewing school and opened a brewery. But between our label artist who does all the illustration, he's also painted a sick mural that's in our tap room. It looks really cool. We do also have a graphic designer who does some of the typesetting and just some of the sort of packaging details, getting fonts the right size for TTB compliance and stuff like that. But it's a lot managing them, given that we've done, I don't know, 700-800 different labels probably by now.
Yeah.
But it's fun.
So, I guess should we start with the story of KCBC first and then you guys, or like what kind of works best?
We can do a little, let's do a little KCBC and we'll flip-flop. So yeah, I'll actually start where so I got into beer because my dad was a home brewer. I grew up in a small town called Medellin Falls, population like 218.
218?
Yeah, it's tiny.
Whoa.
Super tiny.
It's very specific.
In what state?
State of Washington. So
When he's that small, you know exactly how many people are in town.
Yeah. It's like some guy goes to college and they're like, oh, you got to change it, No, it's, no traffic lights, no fast food, right up on the Canadian border, sort of Idaho, Canada border, but in Washington state.
Cool.
But my dad was a home brewer when I was a kid. And so like I grew up, he's a high school chemistry teacher, home brewed in the basement. It's kind of like Breaking Bad, except without the meth, So like I got into like, oh, this is cool. My dad's like cooking, beer. This is amazing. And then, forgot about it, went to college, did a whole career in advertising primarily, worked in Europe, worked in New York, worked in LA. But then when I moved to New York in 2007, beer in New York was still pretty like spotty in terms of local production. Brooklyn was around obviously by then, 6 Point was making beer, but it didn't feel like the food scene and the beer scene were matching. And, I was involved in the Home Brewers Guild, running that organization for a little while, which is a pretty amazing, motley crew of homebrewers and beer enthusiasts in New York City. Garrett Oliver was one of the founding members. So he's been around for a long time.
There's a lot of the story of the local breweries. They all got started in this club.
Yeah. People like I remember Sam Richardson, who was working at Greenpoint, before he started Other Half, he came in to talk. The guys at Finback, Basil and Kevin, were involved in that scene. Chris Kuzme, Jonathan Moxie, a lot of my friends who worked for other breweries or started breweries, or work in beer, I know from those like early 2000 days in New York City. But anyway, flash forward, 5 or 6 years later, at that point, I'd really become serious about wanting to open a brewery. My wife was supporting me enough to let me go to brewing school instead of work. And then I went to the American Brewers Guild program in Vermont. Yeah.
What year did you go?
Yeah, I was 2012.
That was after you.
2012, yeah.
I've met I think 2 or 3 other guests we've had on this week.
Yeah.
I've been in that.
ABG program with Steve was great. We had a really fun time there. Learned a lot. He's a great guy. And essentially, I'd met my 2 co-founder partners, Tony Bellis and Pete Lengyel, somewhere around that time. Also, both involved in the home brewing scene, working in different breweries. And it was kind of like, let's put our heads together, collective style, and get this off the ground. Not a radically original idea necessarily. Like a couple of guys who homebrewed, all had different backgrounds, wanted to open a brewery. Ta-da! So nothing specifically unique about that story per se, but we hired Bobby, and then our beer got
imagery. Was that you? You came together and were like, this is my idea for your branding. How did that come about?
It was kind of a happy accident. I mean, we didn't launch with any kind of flagship, portfolio, and even our branding was pretty just sort of like unique, our logo. But we were aware of, the 16-ounce can craze by the time we were actually ready to start brewing in 2016. June of 2016 is when we first brewed our first beers. And by the fall, we're like, shit, we got to be packaging beer in 16-ounce cans, and it's got to look amazing. Bushwick's a really cool neighborhood for street art, and that whole vibe was something that we felt like.
The artwork in your neighborhood is
it's all good, man. I mean, it's legendary. It's like world class. Berlin, Bushwick, Miami is probably some of the best places in the world to see like quality, like world class, like well-renowned street arts. You just throw pieces up and like bucket,
Yeah.
So we felt like we had to like a high bar to meet, and through a couple of friends, actually met Earl, our label artist, our illustrator, who was just doing freelance work and had a kind of a small comic book that he self-published called The Squid. Should check it out. I don't think it's in print anymore, but he and I are doing a cool talk about the Daredevil collab next week at KCBC. Dig into some of that. But anyway, we saw his art, and all 3 of us were like, this is the shit, man. It was loud. It's very comic book inspired, obviously, because it was a comic. But it really kind of helped define, I think, at least our look. And, again, it was a lot of back and forth initially to kind of figure out how to like work together. He'd never done this kind of packaging design before, so it was a new kind of format for him. And, versus long form storytelling or just sketching, I'm like, no, there's kind of some parameters here. It's got to be legible. We've got to have a logo. This is the can surface. It's round. It's not flat.
Yeah.
So we had to really kind of find our way through that whole like first few years to sort of like really hone our style and how to collaborate together. But since then, it's been amazing. It's pretty cool.
Cool.
Yeah. Anyway, we hired Bobby though when he was also brewing. He left his job to work at a brewery. Oh, you talk about your beer arrival into KCBC.
Yeah, I moved here. Moved to New York City in 2013 from California. So never homebrewed, didn't work in beer out there. But living in San Diego, there was you had Firestone was not far away. All these Ballast Point, all that. So I kind of like caught the bug of like just being a craft beer like connoisseur, but whatever. Consumer, yeah. I wasn't really even like nerdy about it. I just like was drinking local beer. That's what you do in San Diego. Yeah. It's not like a thing like it is.
Maybe it was.
Or maybe it is now. Yeah. But so I was just into it, and I moved out here. I was working in restaurants, and then kind of just wasn't a hobby and didn't know a lot of people. So I started homebrewing. Took a class at this place in it's now out of business. They closed shop, but Bitter Nesters.
R.I.P. Bitter Nesters. Salute.
Was that a homebrew shop?
Homebrew shop.
Yeah, somebody just talked about that the other day too.
Yeah. So I started. I took a class out there, and then started kind of hanging out there, like on my free time. And they're like, "Hey, you kind of hang out here a lot. Do you like want a job?" I'm like, "I do." So, anyways, I took a part-time job there for like 2 days a week for 9 months or so, and there wasn't really any growth with it because it was just a part-time gig and it's a small business. And I kind of, once I caught the bug of home brewing and working in the beer industry a little bit, I wanted to like kind of like go all in. And The owner, John LaPaula, was like, hey, this brewery down the street called Kelso, they're hiring for like packaging person. Like put in a good word. So he did. Ended up getting a job at Kelso, worked there for a year and a half, met Tony Bellis, co-founder of KCBC, became friends with him. And then about a year into like working at Kelso, Tony quit to focus fully on opening up KCBC, and then kind of just kept in touch with him. And then when it was just kind of happenstance, the brewery called Greenpoint Beer Works, where Pete Lengyel worked and Sam Richardson and bunch of people.
Can you speak a little bit about that?
Yeah.
Everyone always brings
Everyone brewed there. I mean, like, well, there weren't very many options for getting a brewing job in New York City.
Yeah.
If you wanted to work and get any, even just like, I want to flip kegs, I don't care, I'll take any job. Like the one of the few places that you could walk in the door and sometimes get hired depending on how busy it was.
that place.
And are they still operating?
No.
They went out of business. Bobby was the last piece.
Like Chris Kuzma and I were the last people standing there.
Yeah.
Like we closed that place down. And so the day that it closed down,
Not because of them. No, it wasn't because of them. I promise. They
we-
were making really good beer.
we-
It was meant to close before
the lease had ran out on the building. The guy that owned the building was
Landlord
not,
was just-
not willing to like extend the lease, so they were forced to like fold.
Yeah.
And then they tried contracting elsewhere for a while. That didn't work out. They ended up selling, anyways. But yeah, from there, like right when they closed, they were opening KCBC, and I got in touch with Tony, and then they hired me on as kind of like a jack of all trades. I was delivering beer, working in the tap room, packaging beer, all this and that. And then kind of, I just, over the years, kind of grew into a brewing role and was like, lead brewer under Pete at the time, and then kind of worked my way into a head brewing role.
Yeah. Rest is history. He's making really good beer. Bobby's team is doing an awesome job, and we're really lucky to have him.
How has like the brewing changed since you started, like styles wise or equipment that you have?
Yeah.
Have things changed since those first couple batches?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think a lot has changed in the market for sure. Talking about that briefly. When we opened our doors, September 2016, it was like IPA, not just IPA. It was like, it's got to be hazy and it's got to be like blasted, Yeah. And we were not necessarily of that, like that kind of phenomenon, the can lines and just this like haze craze.
Yeah.
Wasn't exactly, I'm not speaking on behalf of Bobby, but like none of us got into beer because of that obsession. We got into beer for other reasons. We liked the variety. We liked the creativity. We liked the old school West Coast styles that for us were, I think, the most original and dynamic. When I was like, I've never had a beer that's this like bright and hoppy and intense, Russian River. So that kind of was like, we got to adapt this business for the market reasons to fit into that.
Yeah.
And stubbornly continue to do a lot of variety. Beers like a dark mild that took forever to sell, and doing lagers, and it's nice now to see that the diversification, I think, is healthy and is more in demand than it was actually when we opened.
I do. I remember you guys making lagers when I was like, it was before lagers were cool.
Yeah. I remember like early on, like we were making very like wide range of styles, and I thought that was really cool, but it wasn't exactly what the handful of breweries in New York City area were doing. They're doing all haze grains.
Yeah, it's 12 different types of haze.
Yeah, milds. We're doing
Kolsch's, dry
saisons, all this stuff, and
people are like, "Well, where's the IPA and the hazy one? And can I have more hazy of that?"
And the hazy IPA that we're making were not as punchy as like the other half.
They were balanced. They less bitterness. We were using a different yeast strain that was a little drier, than the other breweries.
But then we kind of like fell in line.
Sure.
And then still continued to make lagers and expanded that, and then expanded into like doing West Coast IPA when there was not a lot of West Coast IPA.
Yeah, I mean, I think the pandemic was that watershed moment when really like, okay, all of a sudden you had this blowing up of everyone's at home and everyone's like, wait, now I can like order beer online. I don't have to go to work and I can just drink all of the hazy IPA that I want, or all the like decadent, like put all the ingredients in this pastry stout, fill in the blank beer. And everyone was like, oh, maybe I'm a little hungover and like, from all of that. So maybe I should drink lagers, and all these other things. Suddenly it started to like shift. That moment still sticks out in my brain, and I think we're on the other side of it, which again is healthier.
It's definitely easier to sell IPAs in cans as opposed to like an English mild. English mild, I get definitely is like
Schwartz beer. I mean, we have the Schwartz beer. I still do it every year, and we're like, it's not bad.
We're sticking to it.
It's a great recipe. It's really good. But yeah, I mean, the equipment wise and process wise, I mean, the other thing that we did for a number of years early on was, the market was we were underproducing versus demand, so everything we brewed sold out, and it gave us a lot of freedom to be really experimental. We were using, I mean, I don't know, we probably tried 25 different ale strains and 10 different lager strains over the course of the first 3 years, which was a really great opportunity. Not that we didn't necessarily know some of the characteristics and some of the parameters that we were looking for, but having that sort of cushion of the market drinking everything we made allowed us to experiment a little bit more.
And malt.
And malts too,
So we used all the malts.
Yeah, we really used all the malts.
Really did.
So now it feels like all the hop varieties, we're definitely, we're a little more mature. The market's more mature. Like I said, we have 6 core beers that are consistent, and we make them consistent. We have a contract brewing partner now, which we didn't at the time, just to kind of manage growth and demand. Brooklyn rent is outrageous. We pay a lot of money.
Fit a lot of.
So we can't make any more beer. Yeah. It's like we can't just like expand and like pay $2 a square foot. It's like, let's make some beer somewhere else. Economies of scale. But so I think we've really started to. We still experiment a lot, and doing this tiny taco beer was really fun because it was a new kind of recipe, new ingredients we hadn't used before. But we're much more disciplined right now, and I feel like at this point we have a strong reputation. We want to be consistent first, and then experiment second.
Nice.
Yeah, quality's always still been critical, and I think we still prioritize it. So that hasn't necessarily changed. I think if anything, we're executing better. We're more experienced. Bobby's great. The team is great. We know what we want. We know what we're going to get, and the market, I think, demands it. Just to survive. So
definitely.
Yeah, I think we're making, in my opinion, just at
the best beer we've made.
Yeah, we're making the best beer that we've ever made right now.
It's good.
Which is fun,
Yeah, it's cool. How has your distribution grown? Like, are you like what is your footprint like?
It's a good question.
'Cause we can find your beer down here.
We do send a little bit to PA. We've been New York City heavy from the beginning. We were self-distributing for in New York City, the 3 main boroughs, so Brooklyn, Manhattan, Queens. Sorry, nothing against Bronx, Staten Island. You guys are Maine and important also, promise. It's just really far and hard to logistically operate self-distribution in the city in general. And then when you add in all 5 counties, it's pretty.
Are you doing all self-distro for this?
So we did 4,000 barrels in 2023 to 2024, so that 12-month rolling period, and we were like, that's too much. Fuck this, man. We're done. We did it. Like, that's a lot. Like, between parking tickets and like, insurance rates banned, like driver turnover. I mean, it's a separate business. There's a reason it's a separate tier, right? It's because it requires a specialized set of skills and equipment and routine. So we ended up selling our distribution rights in New York City to Union Beer. So they handle us in New York City and Long Island currently. But we have been and continue to sell in a bunch of other markets. Depending upon how far away it is and how strong our relationship is with the distributor, we sell a little or a lot. But we've been working in PA. We get some beer into Connecticut a little bit. Jersey's pretty consistent. We do cover all of New York State between 3 different distributors. We also work in Maryland and Delaware, Virginia, DC, North Carolina, Florida. I'm starting to send a little bit more beer to Florida now. The Marvel Disney connections helped a little bit there.
Oh yeah. Say Arizona.
Nevada. We just opened up Nevada, believe it or not, and a little bit in Colorado. We sold in California. We do some export. Sometimes it's like one festival or like one event. Sometimes it's more, it's more regular. Japan takes our beer pretty consistently.
Japan, a lot of people have been sending their beer to Japan.
Yeah.
And recently, a lot of people have been sending their beer to China for some reason.
Yes, we've done a little bit of beer in China. I mean, you're talking about these emerging markets. I mean, Japan is not so emerging. It's very mature, but China's definitely emerging, at least in terms of,
The cool craft beers are saying that like Japan has kind of been there for a while, but it's still people are going over there all the time. But China, in the last 6 months, I've seen a lot of people all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Cool. So can we?
Let's open another beer.
Yeah, we're already ahead of you. This is the American IPA Daredevil Born Again. So when is the Daredevil show coming out?
So season 2 of Daredevil Born Again is streaming now. Actually, tonight is episode 6. It's going to be a good one. I've heard. I haven't seen it yet. We didn't get early access. We've been watching it like regular people every week.
That's cool. You bring people to the brewery to watch it.
Yeah, we do. We have watch parties. This has been a really fun project. I was telling Richie and Evan earlier. Disney had reached out to us, and honestly, when they first emailed me, I thought it was spam. I ignored the email. I was like, "Director of Marketing, this is a joke." Blah blah blah. Ignore. But like a week later, another marketing guy reached out and was like, "No, like we really want to work with you. Your beer and your branding is really perfect for this new project we're working on." And so I reached back out. I was like, panicking. Oh shit, this is real. We got to do this. And they told us the project, it was Daredevil. At that point, this was winter. So this was about a year and a bit. So Daredevil had been a Netflix TV series. Then Disney and Marvel joined forces. It went back under the Disney Marvel umbrella. And it took a while for them to kind of reboot. But last year they launched Daredevil Born Again, season 1. Most of the same cast, new showrunner, but a lot of kind of continuity from the Netflix series, which fans were really excited about. And we got tapped to do beer for that. So that went off really, really well. Everybody loved it. We had screening nights. We had like figure drawing pop-ups at the brewery. We did cosplay contests for the finale. People got really into it. There's a big Daredevil community in New York, Daredevil fan community. Save Daredevil. A lot of those people are based in New York. So we were fortunate to be asked to do this again, and they really didn't want to change the recipe. We're kind of in charge of the liquid. It's their IP on the can, it's their property, their logo. But our label artist, Earl Holloway, was allowed to do his own version of Daredevil, which is pretty cool. Can art's sick. You can see it. Yeah.
As an illustrator, that's got to be a cool experience too.
He was like that. He was like jaw dropping. Like I was like, so Earl, do you want to draw Daredevil? He was like, what are you? Is the Pope Catholic? Come on, what are you talking about, man? So it was a pretty amazing opportunity, and I think he crushed it. The beer's pretty good too, though. None of this.
Yeah, it's decent. How do you go about picking like an IPA to go with Daredevil? Like how did that process go of trying to?
I think it matches pretty well.
I don't know. I mean,
they wanted it to be essentially a recipe or version of a profile that we'd done before. And Bobby and I, thought about where we could kind of land this. It was easier to get it through their through part of their approval, nutrition board compliance, regulatory stuff. If it was over 7%, so we're like, okay, so that probably means it's not a lager. Let's make it, and then it's like IPA. I think it's about shelf stability and some of the sort of requirements. I mean, there's a reason that like alcohol and beer in particular is less regulated than like water from a FDA standard, because alcohol is obviously prevents a lot of spoiling, a lot of bacterial growth that can otherwise happen, botulism, things like that can happen in water, and it can't really happen in beer because of the presence of alcohol. As soon as you put a lot of hops in there anyway. So I think there was just about safety standards. Disney doesn't want to get sued, I hope they're not watching, but it's okay if they are. So we kind of went, okay, sales wise, let's do IPA. We do a lot of great IPAs. And I think we just kind of were like, let's not make it hazy. Like there's something just retro and like just gritty and, just kind of like literally punchy about this IP, about the story, about the character Daredevil, about, Matt Murdock. He's this blind lawyer who obviously has like this like kind of superpower sensory awareness because he was blind and now had to kind of hone his instincts. Not to get too much into the lore there because I'm going to screw something up and then I'm going to get corrected. But, it just felt like, let's do like we didn't want it to like be overly aggressive. We're still trying to like pitch this to a broader audience maybe than our regular beer nerd KCBC community. It's like, well, these people who might love Daredevil maybe are a little unsure about craft beer, so let's make sure it's approachable. We don't want to turn the IVUs up to 99, but let's make sure we're using our kind of profile. I mean, Bobby can talk more about how our West Coast IPAs have evolved and what we're doing there, you know?
Yeah, I mean, I think we agreed to do kind of a version of our
IPA.
American IPA.
American IPA, West Coast IPA, they're kind of synonymous for
A
us.
version of our flagship Venomous Villains.
Yeah.
And kind of slightly maybe toned down a little bit was kind of the idea, just to make it a little bit more approachable. Similar hops, use some classic hops.
Yeah, this is Chinook and Centennial, Nelson.
But mostly it's Centennial Chinook. A little bit of Nelson in it, but try to just keep it.
We do a pretty heavy Whirlpool edition, you know. I mean, our dry hopping regimen on our West Coast IPAs is heavier. We put more hops. You know, our West Coast IPAs are more expensive than our hazies because for our profile, for our palate, for what we're trying to achieve, it just takes more hops. We're using cryo. We're using some liquid products depending upon the recipe. You know, we're doing a single dry hop addition. We're not trying to mess around much anymore with multiple dry hop addition timings on our West Coast IPAs. And one of the big changes we've made, actually, one of the things that's in common with these two beers is the use of lager yeast or 3470 German lager yeast, even on a 7% IPA, not just a hoppy lager.
I just did a collaboration with First State Brewing in Delaware.
Yes.
They brewed it with a lager yeast.
Yeah.
I think that they are switching over all their IPAs to lager yeast.
We're fans.
As are we.
Yeah. I mean, something that like the guys at Firestone Walker, I think talked about, and Matt, and I'd written some articles about it. That was kind of one of my early kind of aha moments. And then, our partners up at Industrial Arts, Jeff O'Neill, their team's amazing. They're using, they kind of had talked about using this in some beers, this same kind of profile. And we were sold.
Yeah. And I think that we at the time, we were using Chico for our West Coast, and then we partnered with Industrial Arts. They're using 3470.
Yeah.
What temperature are you fermenting at?
We're knocking out at 54, fermenting at 56, and then about 50% through attenuation, we raised it to 65.
Cool.
And then
a dry hop there.
With the warmer dry hop, and then,
Cool.
Yeah. And I think it's working really well. I think shelf stability, shelf life, aroma stability. And I'm not as savvy about the chemical, biological reasons for that, but we've seemed to notice sensory-wise that it does seem to hold up better.
As the sulfur, right? There's sulfur, right? There's sulfur that absorbs the oxygen.
Yeah, exactly.
It's bonding. It's keeping that oxygen from getting in there and fucking up all those little cool hop aromas, Yeah.
Cool.
But yeah,
That's very scientific. That was my super scientific.
we were trying to
fucking that shit up, man.
initially trying to stay consistent with IA.
Yeah.
And then we started brewing with it down in Brooklyn.
Yeah.
We're kind of went back to Chico for a second. And then we're actually now we're drinking some Chico beers and some 3470 beers. And we're actually
This is
2 months in, this 3470 beer is tasting better.
Yeah.
So
That's cool.
then we just kind of didn't go back.
So the fact that Omega has this diacetyl-free strain is also just kind of a cool, appealing opportunity because it does, saves you that risk factor of re-fermentation, hop creep. You might get hop creep. I mean, we still try to really manage whether that happens. It doesn't seem to happen as much with 3470 at all. But when and if it does, you're at least going to be safe from that diacetyl bloom if you're using a strain that's got that gene removed, essentially, that expression.
Nice.
Yeah, I haven't seen any kind of diacetyl or anything like that.
That's cool.
Or even re-fermentation, any kind of hop creep, and any of this stuff. So it's been pretty solid.
Yeah.
Nice. This was a very quick episode. I'm sorry, but we have to end. It's been half an hour, but it's been very fun.
Amazing. We love being here, man. We love what you guys are doing, man. Love the podcast. So thanks again for having us.
Thank you. Welcome to Philly. Welcome to CBC.
Awesome,
I'm sure I'll see you guys out there tonight.
Yep.
Well,
drink some beers.
Thank you. And where can we find you guys? At KCBC?
KCBC. I mean, we're here at CBC. We've got some beers on a brew. At least we did, unless they all kicked.
This podcast is gonna come out after that. I'm talking about like on social media.
Oh, on social media.
Sorry, it's coming out in like 2 weeks.
Sure, totally right. I'm like, this is not real time. What is it, real time? Check us out on social media. We're KCBC Beer, at KCBC Beer on all the platforms. We love visitors. Please come to our tap room.
Check out the tap room. Yeah, actually has history with the podcast too, because when we met and decided we wanted the podcast, we came to your guys' tap room.
Yeah,
as one of us decided that.
we did a little Brooklyn tour. That's when I was living out there.
Yeah,
we hit up
fun.
Evil Twin, KCBC, and somewhere else.
We're basically brothers from another semi-mother ship of beer things together. Whoa.
Now there's all kinds of breweries in that like 2 mile radius.
yeah,
So crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, you guys got to come back, man.
We will. We'll be back. And then follow us at BrewedAt, at the BrewedAt podcast. And we'll see you guys tomorrow.
Thanks so much, guys. Cheers. Salud. Sorry.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, guys. Cheers. Salud.